solopreneur going and talking to these people, I would not just have it all frilly pink because you're not frilly.
No, I'm definitely not.
And so they're working with you.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd want to have a little bit of that burliness in there so they know what they're getting.
I mean, I'm not going to skip I'm not going to be skipping in there with throwing flowers around, I'm going to walk in there and.
So as a creative, I knew that I always wanted to run a business, but I didn't know the businessy things. I'm Kim Russo, owner of On Brand Designs, creator of the Profitable Brand Designer course. And this is my cute man over here.
I thought we were going to say handsome man, but I'm handsome man Jeremy, co-hosting the show with Kim, hoping to share some knowledge and laughs as we share our journey together as an entrepreneurial couple.
Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. It's a topic that has been very popular lately, especially when I've been giving any types of talks or presentations, podcasts, getting on other people's podcasts, is color. And I'm really kind of surprised of how much interest has been in it, but it is such an important part of branding and really helping your clients too when you are creative and working with clients to really brand them impactfully. Color is such a huge component of building a brand, and there's a lot of psychology to go around with it. So I wanted to kind of dive in my experience and my thoughts around the psychology of color and branding.
And this is going to be more Kim leading this conversation because all I have to share is really what my favorite color is, and I'm wearing my favorite color today, and it's blue. And Kim, what is your favorite color?
I feel like everybody, if you're listening, and this is, we're a few months in, you should probably know, but drumroll, it's teal. Which I love that your brother this morning said that it's on brand teal. So we're naming the color now. It's going to go in the official records.
You might have to trademark that.
Yep.
And give it a different hue.
Yeah. We're going to call it on brand teal. Or on brand teal.
On brand teal.
On brand teal. Which is something I want to get into, is talking about like naming your colors too, which is a really fun thing to do. So to kind of start it, so obviously there's a lot that goes into a brand. There's the overall look of it. There's fonts, colors, imagery, the feeling that that invoke in people when they see your brand. But color is going to give you that first initial reaction. Mm-hmm. So it really is something to consider when you're building out a brand. And so that's why we really like to start with brand strategy first. And there's a whole process in brand strategy to identify what those colors are. So when you go through that process of figuring out who your target audience is, who you are, or how you're trying to have your business perceived and positioned. So all of these things kind of take into effect how it's going to be, if it's luxury, what colors really speak to a luxury market. If it's targeted towards females only, what age range are these females? So getting super specific will really help with that. And I like to start with creating a mood board once I kind of analyze all of this stuff and figuring out like, where do they hang out? What is something that they're going to be reacted to quickly? Using keywords that defines your business, the people, yourself, and we'll get more into that in a little bit, but figuring out all of these identifiers and then creating a visual mood board. So going straight into Pinterest and putting all of these characteristics and keywords and names in there, and it'll start to kind of give you a color story without you even realizing it.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. And, just your colors, if you think about branding, when you see gold and red, a lot of people associate McDonald's with that, right? So they've done a good job over the years and decades and centuries, even just like putting that out.
It's
not centuries. Well, they've been around for a while, but at least decades anyway. So they've done a great job of when you see gold and red together, you automatically think McDonald's. We have some people here in the local Charleston market that do a really good job when you see a particular color of you kind of notice, and they wear their colors all the time, so they always are associated with that color in their brand. It's not necessarily a logo like Nike, Adidas, or any kind of like Tommy Hilfiger or something like that. When you see the logo, you don't associate the logo, but you can associate color with that brand. So color is definitely, like Kim said, becoming very popular to recognize that brand.
Yeah. So, well, a good case that in point that you had was the other day we were back at your parents' house helping your family with some stuff, and we were watching the Carolina game, which had commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to me bootlegging it on YouTube.
And Carolina's colors, we're down here in South Carolina, so those colors are garnet and black. So when you see garnet and black, you're going to associate, if you're in the Carolinas, that with the Gamecocks. So.
Well, my point to that is what your aunt said.
I know where you're going with that. I know exactly where you're going with that. So, but that was a great point in what she said. So go ahead.
So we're sitting watching TV.
The football game.
And commercials came on. And a lot of times in those games, the commercials are like medications and vitamins and things like that. Not even going to go into the fact that your father loves commercials and probably can dictate every single commercial.
Mm-hmm.
But she, she's not in branding. She works at a vet office, but she just immediately picked up like, hey guys, have you noticed that everybody in the commercials, the extras that are like portraying this lifestyle and they're on this medication that probably will kill them with all the things, but there were
valid point.
The people in the commercials are wearing the colors that are associated with the packaging and the brand, and it's just driving in that brand recognition even more. So you have 5 seconds to really make a visual impression on somebody. So that's if they're, driving by and seeing a billboard, if they are pulling up into a mall strip. I don't know if there's too many malls.
Strip mall?
Strip mall. Yes, anywhere where there's storefronts. Fronts of stores. But you're going to be drawn to something about either the color or how the iconographic looks. But the color is what's going to catch your eye first, because it's just in our brains to respond to color that way. And so you've got these 5 seconds to make a lasting impression on somebody. And if somebody's going to look at it and see a color, let's say red, but they're really looking for like a feminine boutique salon esthetician, and they want it to be a soft and calming environment, but you see like these bright, vivid colors, you might not even understand what it is, but it also may deter you because you're getting this emotion that it's like excitement, it's, it's bold, it's too much, So that also can play a huge factor into how people react just seeing it right off the bat. Same thing goes with websites. So you want to have that connection and that instant reaction from somebody just based on color alone. So one of the analogies I like to share is you could have two women walk into a party. They're both wearing, one's wearing a red dress, one's wearing a blue dress. Same exact dress, could be identical twins. One person is going to have one emotional reaction and draw to the person in the red dress, and somebody completely different is going to go straight into the blue dress. So nothing else is different but color. But those two different people that are seeing these two women walk in, they're going to know immediately who they're drawn to.
Yeah. Do you remember it was always going around like Facebook and social media with the blue and black dress, and it says what color?
Oh, blue and white. Yeah.
It was like to me, I saw blue and black, and then some people, and that got into a debate as to like, so that I guess that goes into like your perception of how that is, and like what your left brain or right brain or whatever. Like some people are going to see that color differently than others. So yeah, I think that
I still don't understand those. It's white and gold to me. And I don't either.
No, but see it. There's a lot of psychology to it, I guess. But that goes back to the point of there's a lot of psychology behind color, and the psychology of, hey, if you're driving down the road and you see the golden arches and the red signs, and you're just like, all right, that's McDonald's. I'm hungry,
or fast food in general.
Yeah, and just like
Bojangles, Burger King.
Yeah, and if you notice, they always have like Bojangles has red and gold too, or red and yellow, which I've heard that red is a very kind of like when you're scrolling on social media, if you see red, it makes you stop. Like, so it kind of grabs your attention a little bit more. With that color in particular, not to say everybody needs to have red in their branding, but it is kind of like I mean, we associate a stop sign is always red, so it kind of makes you stop and think and see.
Caution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a little thing too that I like to keep in mind when I'm building websites, even if red is part of your brand colors, and the same applies to green and some other colors that are commonly not seen by the colorblind. So to be ADA compliant and not be also too jarring sometimes, you want to make sure you're not using like the red and green buttons that might look like poop to somebody that's colorblind. So that's just a little side note tip from me as a web designer.
Yeah, and I have a cousin that I would help. He's colorblind. That's the only colorblind person I've ever really known. So I don't know how, rampant that is with people, but it was always fun helping him pick out clothes. And sometimes I would mismatch him on purpose just to mess with him.
That's mean.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't let him buy it, but I would kind of like put some colors together. He couldn't tell.
And there's so much to color that like I say like when it comes to branding, sometimes you can make up your own rules and you can be the decider and like what feeling are you trying to have your brand perceived. You can take a color and maybe it's just adjusting the shade of it to be able to really attract that audience, really make sense for that brand. And corporate has a whole other look, and small business, health and wellness, fitness, like it's not just picking the same color. So everybody in fitness has to have the same color. It's how you combine the colors and it's how you combine the rest of the brand. But that initial reaction is going to help drive people to use your brand and get that feeling and that recognition too. So it's the overall story that you're going to tell with it. When it comes to personal brands, so I work with a lot of small businesses. I myself, even as an agency, consider on-brand designs somewhat of a personal brand because I am the face of the brand. So when I was considering the color palette for my brand, you can go back and revisit this and make sure that you're still in line and attracting the right audience. I know I've gone back and done this and I still am standing true to what I've chosen for my brand. But teal is a color that really invokes a feeling of calm, safety, security. It's happy to me. And although I'm not necessarily my ideal client, I'm pretty close to it. I've been doing a lot of work lately, even for both the Profitable Brand Designer course, which definitely is targeted towards me a few years ago when I created this brand. And then the people that I like to work with because they're female entrepreneurs that are high achievers. They are, decisive. They understand the value of a brand. They, they have big goals. So, in essence, I kind of am. And so teal is something that is just reminds me of the water. So the fluidity of the water. We just came back from St. Thomas and that water was like so teal and it just made my eyes so heavy. And then the rest of my brand, I've kept very clean. So white and black, a little bit of gray, and also playing with the tints of the teal because there's certain times that it's just like it's a little bit too much teal and I want it to be a little bit more softer and elegant. And it all depends on what I am creating within the brand. So I'm still using the brand colors. There's still that cohesion. I'm still keeping the same within reason audience, but I might want something to look a little bit more sophisticated. So I might tone down the teal and go in and lean in more with the black and white. Whereas if I want it to be a little bit more playful and fun and, maybe more of the design crowd, then I might use a little bit more teal and make black and white the secondary and a little bit of gray here and there. And, if I'm going to be doing something that's really elevated. So I have this workbook that I want it to be really clean and simple and elevated. And so that is heavily black and white with a little bit of teal, but I'm also putting in a little bit of off-white to kind of soften it a little bit and add that little bit of elegance. So still on brand with on-brand designs, but able to introduce a little bit more to tell a story with whatever project I'm working on. I also interchange buttons too as well because certain offers and programs or seasons, there's a color of the year every year. Not that I necessarily always follow, but PMS always has a color. I think this year's coral.
PMS.
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 PMS colors.
Oh,
It's a swatch book, although they're kind
I thought that's once a month.
Yeah.
Think of those colors.
No, it's a color terminology. Actually, I don't even know what it stands for.
I know what the other one stands for.
Yeah. But honestly, that's almost like obsolete these days because Adobe and PMS don't get along anymore.
So yeah, with your brand, and I was going to ask, so like when you have teal, you're talking about like offsetting that because in your brand you have, even I'm looking at your business card over there, you've got the black intermixed with the teal, and then so probably is it something that you wouldn't necessarily go with a teal match with another another shade of teal, and then another shade of teal. You want something that's a little bit more, I don't know if I would say dominant over the teal, but something to offset it a little bit,
So
and not get different shades of teal
tone on tone. You mean?
Yeah, so like not to say, all right, there's a pink, but then you get a dark pink, a light pink, and you try to blend that all. Like, wouldn't you want something that's a little bit more dominant to offset that?
Yeah, so I mean, for my logo, I've kind of set rules. So I can, when I do my logo, that has to be one color. I can do it all in one shade of teal. I wouldn't do multiple shades of teal for a logo. But if I was doing a graphic that was supposed to be monotone for some reason, which could work, then yes, that's where you would use the different tones. So whenever we work on big brand projects, we always create brand guidelines. We even have our own brand guidelines for us to help set some of those rules and be able to, have the different options that you can use. And so that everybody knows on my team what colors to use, what tints to use. And so there is a whole guide of color with the different tints and really the hierarchy too. So there is a hierarchy of what colors I would want to be prominent. Now, when I say you can make your own rules, there is those times that I do make black the hierarchy color and sometimes teal the hierarchy color. And it's, again, what emotion am I trying to get from this social post or this offer page or lead magnet page or this flyer? Is it, how much content is on there too? Like, what, do I need more white space? Do I need more just teal and white? So, but when you're looking at my business card, I've got one side is white with just my logo, but the other side is completely black.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And that makes sense.
But so I try not to do more than 6 colors in the brand. Sometimes that gets a little out of control. Now there's ways you can get a little bit more. There are some brands I'm working on right now where there's florals and it's vintage, so there's a lot of colors in there. So what we really have to do is figure out what is that main color and then kind of figure out an order of how we introduce it. So is it 10% of this color would be used on the brand? Is it 5%? Is it really just in the logo itself and we're not going to use it on the website or any of the marketing materials? So that's where those brand guidelines come into play that are really important to set those rules. So especially when you have lots of colors. But a way to get away with not having a ton of colors is to have those tints that you can combine and interchange with other tints. So if it's a tint, all tints, softer palette, maybe that's something that you're trying to get across a calming, soft, springy vibe.
Yeah. Do you have where people come to you and a lot of people have said that you're very intuitive with obviously your design work and everything, but do you have people that come to you and don't really know what color they want, or they generally have an idea of, hey, I want to go with a pink or a yellow, and you kind of help them understand the ratios of how to utilize their colors that they have in their mind to their brand?
I'd say typically they come to me with an idea, and that's mostly because I am servicing a lot of personal brands. And so automatically right off the bat, people are going to come and say, well, I love this color and I react to this color. So that's kind of goes back to why I chose teal, which I do say is super important to have in your brand when you are a personal brand and a small business brand, because that's going to help you to be confident and love your brand and be proud of your brand. And that's giving you that emotional reaction to your brand, then in turn you're going to show it better for your clients and your audience. And I say wear a brand or create a brand that you love to wear, which you know. I mean,
And have you ever had to take, tone somebody down from a
yes.
color that they like they might like, I don't say brown. You don't say, well, UPS. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you see brown, you're like, oh, that's UPS, And so, but maybe have you had to tone somebody down on, I really like this color, but it's really, but I'm in, I'm brown, but I'm trying to, sell a certain product or build a certain brand. And you're like, well, I don't think that really goes with that, but they're just stuck on that brown. Like, how do you talk to that for someone?
Yeah, so that's why the brand strategy is super duper important, because they can come in with their color and we'll try to make it work if it makes sense. It may just be an accent color, or we may advise them not to. But what happens is when they're coming in with this preconceived notion of what they want it to look like, we try to figure out if that makes sense for their brand. We also do a competitive analysis, so we want to make sure, like, we want to disrupt the market and who your competitors are, but also, are you so far out there that you don't even make sense for the category? We don't want you to also be the same where you're blending in. And so those are also key factors that we consider. But I would say having the mood board first, that we take all this brand strategy, it's clearly there what the colors really should be. Now, I have had the reason why that part of the project is so crucial is because there's been a few times that a client will come to me, they articulate what they want, they show me things they like. When I actually put it onto a single page with a color palette, they're like, wait, no, that's not really what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so then that gives us an opportunity to go back, redo it, and say, okay, now let's try it this way. And then they're like, okay, yes, you were right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we've done it where we've done two, which is definitely above and beyond. But because you definitely want to listen to the client, and you want them to be a part of the process, and you want to make sure that they are happy. But sometimes we do give them two and say, okay, this is based off of the answers you fill out in the questionnaire and what you perceive to be the brand that you want. But this is after doing all this research that we've come up with. And it's an emotion that comes from the visuals. So we're taking all of that strategic knowledge that we've got, we're putting it into images so that you get that quick reaction. And that's based off of the overall color of the board, but we're adding in images of like lemons and trees and whatever makes sense for that brand. People, if it's a senior care thing, we're going to put somebody like working with seniors. If it's, I'm using that because
yeah, I work with the seniors.
Yeah. So if we were to make a mood board for you, like, we would factor all that in, because while you might like blue, but if you're trying to work with, a particular 65 and over market, and you're mostly trying to work with, women because they're good at making decisions, but you might not want to go heavy into the blue. Like, so yes, it is your color. Maybe we add in, or maybe it's a different shade of blue. Maybe instead of the navy, like your hat, it's more of the softer, kind of grayish blue that you're wearing in your shirt.
Yeah, and that's when, like, even though I do like blue, it's always kind of, but I've never thought about putting that into like my brand or anything like that, because it's a favorite color of mine. You kind of going back to like having to talk to people about what's going to really appeal more to your client. Because at the end of the day, you might have an affinity for a certain color, but also at the end of the day, your brand and your business is to drive income and money towards you. So, hey, get over the fact that you can go out to dinner in your blue suit or whatever, but your brand might need to be a different color to get the messaging across. So what about with working with women versus men? Do you notice any difference in like the color that they pick or choose, or is like, so are women more in the teals and white blues and pinks and purples versus men being more red? Yeah, just kind of, what's that look like?
I mean, there's the stereotypical boys like blue and girls like pink. And I don't think there is a one size fits all. I think it's more, that's why there's like a whole holistic strategy that you have to put into it, because there's some girls that don't like pink.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to take into account like who those, like, way more than just boy girl.
I actually like pink. I think I look good in pink.
But now, when we're
Got some
talking
pink
about
shirts.
you going to market for like seniors, let's say you were only targeting women 65 and to 70, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we do some market research, and like they love pink so much, they're just, everything is pink, pink, pink.
I wear pink shirts all the time.
But I don't know. We could use pink in the brand, but if you are the personal brand, if you were the person that they were always talking to, unless you're like a team of other people and it was like, you know, an overarching brand and we were considering that. But if it was you, solopreneur, going and talking to these people, I would not just have it all frilly pink, because you're not frilly.
No, I'm definitely not.
And so they're working with you.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd want to have a little bit of that burliness in there so they know what they're getting.
I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to be skipping in there with throwing flowers around, you know. I'm going to walk in there and...
So we want a little bit of your essence so that they also understand, like, that emotion that they get. It's not just the emotion of, ooh, I'm attracted to that, I like it. Like, oh, I'm attracted to that, but also that's somebody that I want to entrust my health insurance with. Like, I want to feel like...
And their money.
Like, it's somebody that they want to trust and feel safe with and feel confident to work with. Mm-hmm. So you have to also figure out what are those emotions that you want to get from somebody. It's not like, oh, I want to go sit at a spa right now. No, I want somebody that I can feel confidently is going to handle me with care, precision, and I can trust. Mm-hmm. So that's all the things you want to consider too. Not just what color they're attracted to, but what is that emotion that needs to come from them to move to the next step to work with you or whoever, whatever business.
And that's the point that we were just talking about too, is like whatever your favorite color might be, like your color is really to, at least in your brand, is to drive, you know, emotion to work with you, do business with you, feel comfortable and confident in working with you as a person. And, you know, and I think that lends a lot of what, you know, people like to work with you, because you've established your brand. You're very confident in your brand and how you built that, and people look at that and like, wow, she really knows how to, you know, put her brand out there, stand behind her brand and brand colors, you know. So that's, you know, it goes back to you being very intuitive in what you do, and people have said that about you, is that like you just get it, like it's just like with me, but like with finance and insurance and stuff like that, like I get it, I enjoy like diving into that. Where is like, that's how we're polar opposite of, like, you know, when we talk about the number side, you're like, all right, this is your area, and then when I talk about like the branding side, this is your area. So
numbers and left and right. That's all you all day.
Yeah, numbers and directions. So that's me.
But I can visually remember if I'm driving, that comes from me having a somewhat of a photographic memory, and within being so visual, I can see what a color or a brand, or I can understand it in my head for some reason. I'm crazy, but it's just been a gift that I've been given, and also doing this for over 20 years, but being a creative for now 42, almost 42 years, like. I consider myself a lifelong creative. I grew up painting, coloring, crafts, all the things. So I've always been super visual. And so it's just become almost like I can't even control it now with having all this experience and working on so many different brands too. So most likely, if a new client's coming to work with me, I've 100% worked on a brand very similar. So I've already done the research at some point in my life, even if it's like 10 years ago. I still understand, and I can kind of visualize that emotion, and I can visualize what it's supposed to be like. Now, it definitely takes work to get that vision out onto the, you know, computer or page, or, you know, sometimes it looks better in my head than I can.
And that's the same with me too, is like, and I think what you're saying is that to someone, it might be overwhelming and a lot to take on to know how to define a brand and build that brand. But for you, you've done it for 20 years. And for me, I've done finance and insurance for 20 years. So when somebody comes to me and they're all scatterbrained about how do I do this, and like, these numbers don't make sense. They make sense to me. and I can look at something and say, okay, this is how this should be done, and this is how we should move forward with doing this because it's easy for me, it's easy for you in your field, and for anybody out there in their field. I think that's what it is about being a specialist in your field. So yeah. Oh, and back to you're almost going to be 42. She has a birthday coming up November 2nd, so don't forget to wish her a happy birthday. and and I just had a birthday, but you're still older than me.
Well, we're the same age right now.
We're the same age right now.
We're the same age.
But we're not never going to be the same.
Well, we're the same exact age.
But
the number.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to go over a couple, just for fun, since we're talking about psychology of color. So the best ways to kind of figure it out. I pulled up a color chart on my phone because you can just Google color chart or psychology of color, and you can kind of get a quick snapshot of some of the words and feelings that come with it. Also, I do have a workbook. It's a brand strategy workbook that I've created to help me work with my clients so that I'm making sure that I am staying on track, getting all the necessary information that I need. So it goes over, initial target audience and how to, kind of like a space to really input that in. Then there's a whole section on building your own, your mission statement, your vision statement, all of that, but also personal brand section that you can use on clients that do have a personal brand. And it goes all into that information that you would need to collect to then move into the next part, which would be developing your actual logo, mark, and brand, and picking the colors and the fonts and how to pair them all together. So it really gives you a place to start when you don't know, okay, now you've told me about psychology of color, but how do I actually figure it out? And in this planner, I call it the strategic brand planner. There's notes and checklists and steps to take. Once you've filled out all this information, now how do you go and apply it to visuals? So we'll put the link in the show notes, and it'll be in the Instagram link tree as well. But highly recommend this if you're kind of unsure and unclear. It gives you super clarity to get to that. And you can run it on yourself too, even if you're not a creative using it on a client. If you are just wanting to know yourself and want a little bit more clarity on your business, go through this brand strategy process, and then it'll help you figure out. So when you're doing that too, I do have a little key in that workbook. But let's go for red. So kind of bigger picture, outside picture, reds and pinks are for love and creativity, but love is symbolizing action, passion, energy, excitement, strength, adventure, and love. But it also can mean caution, alert, danger. Mm-hmm. So it really is how you pair it and how you also treat the color, the rest of the brand. So the fonts, the graphics, the iconography, the style. So it's how you pair it is where this all makes sense, and what colors you pair it with. So if we go into keeping within that love and creativity, so pink means femininity, creativity, respect, softness, gratitude, intuition, and calm. So then let's go into, and these are just really like the primary colors. There's color wheels that can go into like different shades and tints and all that stuff too, but this is just kind of like get you going. Okay, so we've got oranges and yellows, and those are in the optimism and warmth section. So orange is optimism, enthusiasm, freedom, original, emotion, pleasure, and youth. So take it what that means, but I think whenever you're creating that strategy, something will kind of come out there. So I also have like a keyword list too, once you start to develop all that information to pull out, and that's where this starts to come together and fit together. So we've got yellow, which represents joy, warmth, positivity, happiness, charity, curiosity, and fun. Then in the nature and confidence, we've got blue and green. So green meaning nature, luck, harmony, loyalty, safety, prosperity, which is a big one, and health.
And it also means go.
It means go. Go time. But that's why you see a lot of natural products using green because it's health and nature.
Mm-hmm.
Blue is trust. So I would incorporate blue into a brand for you, which I do need to do. Also, power and confidence,
Yeah, I like that.
loyalty, success, security, and purpose.
That's why I like blue.
Which is
So,
why, with what you do, I would incorporate
blue.
blue for sure.
See?
And then the last on the wheel that I have up is purple, which is by itself in the wealth category. So, purple meaning mystery, fantasy, imagination, royalty, spirituality, justice, and art. So you'll see purple a lot. So I'm in a female networking group called the Dames, and so it's kind of like this whole, it's all women, 6, 7, 8-figure business owners, and so it's this royalty, it's these women, these queens, like that's their whole vision. It's like queens of business, and so this shade of purple in particular definitely is fitting for the brand. So, yeah, so that's a little bit to get. So there's much bigger wheels that you can look at. Also, another tip is once you fill out that brand strategy, or the strategic brand planner, and you understand and have clarity with your brand, is use AI. There's ChatGPT, Claude, Copy.ai. Google has Gemini now, but if you take all those findings and you put in these keywords and you say, what colors would really work with, this brand. This is the perception I want and the emotion that I want to come to it. This is the audience. This is, my color. How can I make it work with this color, but still attract this audience, put X, Y, and Z in there? And so you can really play with AI to kind of give you a guide and help you. Now, sometimes I use it to, figure out the hierarchy or what shade or what tint. I don't always take the exact color, but what it'll do is it'll give you hex colors, and then you can plug them in and then tweak them a little bit as you see fit for the brand, but also push it too. So sometimes I've gone in there and I've said, no, this isn't quite really how I want the brand to be perceived. And okay, this is a personal brand, and this person, their color, and it makes sense for the brand is this color. What colors pair well with it? Or how can I, make this work to make sense too? So a little tip to do and play with it. So, yeah.
Good. So, any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
No, no final thoughts. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. I just think have fun with color and, pay attention to as you're driving down the road or you're out exploring or even seeing friends, and like maybe they have like a color that they wear all the time and you didn't even notice. And, ask people what their favorite colors are and why. And so don't neglect it. Don't neglect the importance and the power that color can have on your brand and your emotion and the psychology of it.
Well, now I found out that I like blue because of power and trust, and
that's why you like it.
Well, as of today,
if you did not know these things, why would you say? Let's do that now. Why would you say you like blue? Because I gave why I like teal. It's the ocean.
I don't know. I just literally always just
because you're a boy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just growing up being a boy. Well, man now, handsome man. No, just I don't know, and that might be something with psychology of like how I just always like feel comfortable with blue. Not to say everything is blue. I do have a lot of blue, but it's just one of those colors that I've always found comfort in. Like some people find that they like greens and stuff like that. So I think that is a lot of like subconscious type feelings of like what you just are. Kind of like, not that I get into the signs or whatever, because I'm a Virgo, but like but there is just some kind of like connection that I've had to that color.
I'm
like,
a water sign. I like
yeah,
water.
I mean, my truck's blue, and
That's gray.
it is like a bluish gray. I'll go. It's like but it's blue. It's blue. I'll send you a picture to y'all.
You won't, but we can argue. I think we've argued this since the day.
We have. I don't know why, because it's blue. But
that's
anyway.
that's how we argue that.
Yeah.
The extent of our arguments.
It's not like a royal blue, but it's a hue of. It's a grayish blue.
More gray than your shirt.
It actually looks like my shirt.
Watching on YouTube, it is much more.
It actually
gray.
looks just like this shirt. Yes. Okay. Anyway. All right.
Actually, we will take a picture of you next to your truck in that shirt and use it in some of the promotional posts for this episode. Okay. But going back to also one more point, though, talking about what you're wearing and the colors. So that's also something, you can pay attention to. But my favorite color is teal. I have a few clothing articles of teal. I don't feel like I look great in teal unless I'm tan, which is most of the year in Charleston. But I like black. But black is also part of my brand. So I'm sure you've seen in most of these episodes, I'm wearing black. Now, I do love color and a pop of color and my dresses and all that stuff. But like most of my wardrobe, I'd say would be black.
Yeah, you do. She actually does not wear a lot of teal, which is ironic. But she does also like, wear the blacks. But I think I'm gonna wear a pink shirt during one of these, so people can say, "Yeah, you look good in pink," and so we'll have to do that too.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Well, have fun with color, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. We hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed creating it. Make sure that you follow On Brand Designs on all social media pages and on Instagram, The Profitable Brand Designer, to get the latest episodes, releases, and tips and tricks for brand designers. And also,
you can also follow us as a couple on Instagram at Profitable Brand Couple. That's profitable.brand.couple. So we hope you follow us there and like and comment.
And subscribe and follow us on YouTube to see us in action.
There you go.
Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.